Let me start off by saying this first. This game has blown me away. It's a spaceflight game that features an enormous galaxy, generated worlds you can land on, with their own gravity, temperature, and weather systems, a freeform trading mechanic that relies on you exploring, mining resources, and selling them off, alien encounters, which allows you to choose the way in which you speak to them. All of this, and more, on the Mega Drive, or the Genesis if you're a foreigner. Originally available for the Amiga, Atari ST, Commodore 64, MS-DOS and Mac, but souped up for this Mega Drive version, the game is absolutely enormous and feels completely alien sat on the Sega's 16-bit machine. And it's just wonderful. Had I played this back when it was first released, I think I would have lost weeks, months, possibly years to its open-ended gameplay, and truth be told, it's probably the perfect entry-level space exploration game you can play even now. That's not to say it holds your hand, or it's easy, because it most certainly does not, and we'll get to that later, but in terms of control, of understanding your limitations and what you can do, it feels far less complex and interwoven than modern space explorations do. That's the issue I've always had with this kind of thing. Games such as Elite or Free Space have always had me in awe of them, but whenever I've bought one, I've usually struggled to even get out of the first spaceport without smashing into a nearby space tree. It could be because I don't have a driver's license in real life, or it could be because these games, over the years, have stacked in layers and layers of simulation that is now beyond my simple Earth brain. Starflight's simplicity is both a boon and a curse, but it's only a curse due to the passage of time. It's a game that now has me looking at other, more complex space exploration games and thinking, maybe I should give that another go. Maybe I do need that added complexity. Because the ultimate downfall for me, by the time I'd finally ended my time with Starflight, was a lack of options. That's a pre-warning, by the by. If you're someone who plays space exploration games a lot, then you may well find that this game is simply too simple to hold your attention at all. But for everyone like me, who desperately wanted to be Captain Sex with Aliens or Captain T. Earl Grey Hot, but were put off by the sheer daunting nature of modern space exploration games, this may well be your bag. And let me tell you, the drive to turn this review into a shitty Star Trek parody is unbelievable. The game leans so heavily into that Star Trek style discovery and space mystery that I've had to basically force myself not to go down that route. It will be obvious and crass, and I'm pretty sure 90% of every other person in the world that's covered this game has already done it. So I'm not going to do it. This is my house, it's my rules.
No Star Trek denied.
Your adventure begins aboard this spaceport, and you're given a number of doors you can enter. If you're like me, and you've refused to read the manual, then for one, well done. You're just as cool and brave as I am. But two, go and read the manual. This is a game that demands it, and it's only the size of a small novel. I joke, but it is massive, and it does actually contain a literal small novel. Using the writing talent of science fiction scroller Robert Silverberg, a whopping 32 pages of this manual are taken up simply with fiction inspired by the game. That's the kind of shit you just don't really see anymore. I mean, technically, manuals are the kind of shit you don't really see anymore, but even back then, this was getting your money's worth. The rest of the manual is filled with hints, tips, instructions, full biographies of the different races. It is a meaty book for a meaty game, and it is a perfect companion piece that you should probably keep at hand, because if you're unfamiliar with games of this type, you're going to need it. Back to our spaceport though, what's through door number 1? Well, it's the mission briefing area, and it gives you a big list of do's and don'ts which, to boldly go, no, right, screw it, we're doing it. Captain's Log. Stardate 1. These are the voyages of the USS Lollipop. Our mission, to boldly go where no man has gone before, which I feel is somewhat copyright infringing, but it's fine. As Captain Rose-Tinted Spectrum, I assembled a crew by picking one of every race, because as a captain, I'm super not racist. First, Uncle Phil, whose name was too big to fit on his name badge, so he's now just Unc Phil. Human, reasonably good at science, I assigned him as my new science officer. Next, the android, Noel Edmonds. Absolutely incredible at navigation, but can't communicate for toffee. It seemed sensible to make him the navigator and to never talk to him. Third mate, Borders, a member of the insectoid race, the Velox. She's pretty crap at most things, but with her power of maths, she was reasonably good at engineering. I stuck her in the engine room. Violet Berlin, reptilian, part of the Thrin Empire. She's pretty good at communications due to all that time on TV. I stick her on the comm deck. No one is allowed to mention a lisp. Lastly, Dr. Fox, the Doctor. He's from the Eloan race, which is a plant-based life form. I'm not sure how he got good at medicine because he doesn't have hands. My first mission was to work out what all these rooms were for, because I refused to read the manual. I'd already worked out the room to assign my crew, there was another room for fiddling with my ship, and another room where I could buy and sell cargo. With no forethought whatsoever, I bought 30 tons of cobalt because there's bound to be some alien bastard out there who eats that shit. With that done, I was bored, so I decided to take the crew aboard the good ship Lollipop and head out. We spent our time searching the solar system, scanning planets and not really having a clue what any of the controls were, but we were impressed. I managed to get by simply by jamming all the buttons on the control panel. It turned out I could request the Navigator land on any planet, which absolutely blew my captain's socks off. We crash landed because I didn't realise you had to use your thruster. Sending out a small vehicle to search for minerals, the wind started to blow us in directions I was very uncomfortable with. So after a brief jaunt fighting with the controls, I ordered everyone back on the ship before they ran out of fuel. Heading back to base, I realised I'd been scanning planets and telling home base they were suitable for colonisation. Headquarters was extremely unhappy that I'd told them they could send people to a planet with no oxygen, arctic temperatures and gravity that would crush them into tiny meat cubes. If these people want to survive, they need to be less picky. Using some of my spare cash, I trained the crew in the one thing I thought they needed. Bought some upgrades for the all-terrain vehicle, then sold everything in my cargo because the cobalt wasn't going anywhere fast. And I'd also picked up something really expensive called Endurium Plus. At $1,000 a ton, it was sure to make some bread. It was only when I got back into space that I realised Endurium Plus was fuel, so I've just sold the entire reserves. Tip number 1, don't sell your fuel. You need that to get about in space. Getting about in space is proper useful. By the end of this initial play session, I was enamoured with the game, but it was over the course of the next few hours that I started to settle into a gameplay loop, and it was one that is unavoidable. You need to make money in order to buy upgrades for your ship, and to keep those precious fuel reserves high. Buying new equipment and upgrades is relatively easy, but there's only 2 viable options here, and that's where my problems begin. I'd initially bought some cobalt because I'd incorrectly presumed that this was going to be in the same direction as many other similar games, that I'd be buying up resources in one area, setting off to a new galaxy to try and find somewhere I could trade it in for a better price. No, that's not an option. The market here is a static one, and the way to make your money from that market comes down to mining. So you head to a planet, you pop down your all-terrain vehicle, you scan the surface, you go and mine what you can, you fly off, you land, you pop down your all-terrain vehicle, you scan the surface, you go and mine what you can, you fly off, and so it goes on, until you're either scarily short of fuel or your cargo bay is full. And then you grab all the bits you need, and maybe you'll have enough fuel to go out and explore the wider galaxy. So off you go, and soon you realise that your options here are to find planets that are habitable spaces for your fellow citizens, for which you'll get money. Or you mine again, and again, and again. At around the 15 to 20 hour mark, this gameplay loop was most definitely becoming stale, and it's a huge shame because these planets are genuinely interesting to land on. You could come across some minor life forms, or you might end up in the middle of an earthquake. There could be a storm that blows you off course, but ultimately, you're still doing the same thing for the most part. Mining, or mining. Because every time you fly around, take off, land far in the wrong direction, you're burning through your fuel, and you'll need to return to home base in order to sell whatever crap you've picked up, or to cash in your log entries on habitable planets, so you can buy enough fuel to go off and do it again. I'd been taking my time with Starflight, gathering enough cash to upgrade almost everything on my ship and my all-terrain vehicle, so when it came to meeting a hostile alien for the first time, things were exciting. Oh boy, 3 spaceships? This is going to be an awesome battle. Oh, it's finished.
Earthlings can live on in peace now, Doctor.
Perhaps I'd overleveled, I'm not sure. During these sequences, you get to try and glean some form of information from the aliens by first choosing your posture, be it simpering, calm, or angry, and you're given basic prompts as to what you want to ask them. This works great, apart from on these miserable robot bastards who won't give me an inch. This all sounds great, I hear you say, in my head, but what's the overall point to all of this? Well, you're tasked with working out why stars in your region are getting dangerously naughty and going explodey. To do this, you have to explore 270 star systems, each of which can contain any number of planets. You'll often be given hints and suggestions, either from command or from the aliens you interrogate, that advises you where to go, or where you could find things that lead you to where you need to go. All of these tips, by the by, are given to you with the express assumption that you're writing things down. You need to be writing things down, because Starflight at no point marks anything off for you. Already explored every planet in a particular solar system? Well, unless you make a note of that, be prepared to accidentally do it more than once. Already scoured a planet for one of the clues that you've been given? Again, make a note, otherwise you're going to be off mining for the next 2 hours to pay for the fuel you've just wasted. And that's where I get to with Starflight. It's when my attention begins to wander toward more in-depth and current offerings, because as much as the game absolutely captured me at the start, it doesn't quite scratch the perfect itch. It is unbelievably impressive, even now, but it's a game I wish I got to experience as a wide-eyed child instead of a sleepy-eyed old man. Would I recommend Starflight? Absolutely. There will be people out there who fall head over heels in love with this core gameplay loop, but even outside of that, it's just damn impressive. There's practically nothing like it on the Mega Drive, and very little like it now. Truly, it boldly went where very few people are... You know what I'm trying to say.
Ascend. 38 degrees. More thrust.
I'll increase the thrust to Mach 80.
Mach 92.
I'm turning it up.
More thrust.
Mach 100.
More. More thrust.
I'm turning it higher.